Let's start recording. We're moving. We worked with nonfiction stuff initially. Now we're moving to fiction. Going to see some similar ideas here. Stuff that we've seen in language arts, stuff that we've seen in social studies, as we get towards the end of the language arts unit 1. So today, unit 1, lesson 14, cause and effect, and largely applying those same ideas just to different type of writing. So today we'll define the terms cause and effect, which we know, and determine how cause and effect change the outcome of the story. So looking more in terms of fiction now rather than nonfiction. All right, and our audio.
In Lesson 5, you learned about cause and effect in nonfiction writing. In fiction writing, too, authors use cause and effect relationships to develop their stories. A cause is an element, such as an action or an event, or a situation that makes something happen. An effect is what happens as a result of that cause. What one character does in one part of the story can affect the same character or another character in another part of the story. A cause can have more than one effect, and an effect more than one cause. Effects can be both positive and negative. The outcome of stories often depends on whether causes lead to effects that are planned or unplanned.
So that's probably one difference that you'll see between nonfiction and fiction writing. In fiction writing, your cause and effect may apply more to individual characters. Whereas when you run into cause and effect in nonfiction, it's going to be groups of people, maybe economic situations or things like that. Larger ideas a lot of times, but fiction tends to be more personal. That's where you'll wind up seeing it. I'll start off with reading here so we can cover our text boxes. So the strange house. So I will let it alone, and let's see. So I will let it alone and talk about the house. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the heirs and co-heirs. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. That spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid. But I don't care. There is something strange about the house. I can feel it. I even said so to John one moonlight evening, but he said what I felt was a drought and shut the window. I get unreasonable angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be so sensitive. I think it is due to this nervous condition. But John says if I feel so, I shall neglect proper self-control. So I take pains to control myself, before him at least, and that makes me very tired. I don't like our room a bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the piazza and had roses all over the window and such pretty old-fashioned chintz hangings. But John would not hear of it. That's the yellow wallpaper from Charlotte Perkins Gilman, 1892. And above it says that causes and effects have connections, right? So some legal trouble caused the house to be empty for years. There's our cause and effect. Down here, the words so and therefore often signal an effect. Here, so means therefore. It signals that the narrator's action is an effect. We haven't talked about signal words for a while, but we'll get back. Right, this is another. You start looking for those ideas. Therefore, so, which going to trigger to look for cause and effect statements. Okay, we'll move over to the quiz. All right, in our same paragraph there, our statement here, use logic to determine whether a particular cause could have led to an event. So, ask yourself questions. Why did this happen? Note too that cause and effect questions often begin with the word why. So, right, why did that happen? That's going to be a cause and effect answer. Why did, the effect was, I got bit by a dog. Why did I get bit by a dog? Because I was teasing the dog, right? That's the cause. The effect would be getting bit. And So starting off here, so why does John shut the window? A, the narrator feels a chill from the open window. B, the narrator says the house is strange and spooky. C, John has a nervous and is sensitive to cold. Or D, John does not want to see the moonlight.
B.
B, yeah. Narrator says the house is strange and spooky. B as in boy. For 2, got a new section here. Latoya, you mind reading section 2 for us?
You want me to read the whole thing or just the first paragraph?
I'll tell you what, read the first paragraph and we'll switch off.
Okay. It say, received one morning a letter written in pale ink on glossy blue line notepaper and bearing a postmark of a little Nebraska village. The communication wore and rubbed, looking as though it had been carried for some days in a coat pocket that was none too clean. Was from my Uncle Howard. It informed me that his wife had been left in a small legacy by bachelor relative who had recently died, and that it had become necessary for her to come to Boston to attend to a settling of the estate. He requested me to meet her at the station and render her whatever service might prove necessary. On examining the date indicated as that of her arrival, I found it no later than tomorrow. Tomorrow? Why did I do tomorrow like that? He had characteristically delayed writing until, had I been away from home for a day, I must have missed a good woman altogether.
Okay.
Missed a good woman altogether.
Just referencing, that hyphen in between tomorrow. This is from 1904. So it's just one of those, where we've kind of standardized certain words like that. You might find stuff like that in older writing. Instead of tomorrow, you might see something like on the morrow or something like that, talking about tomorrow. So, but yeah, good pointing that out. This is one of those things, and that'll clue you in too, that you're reading something, from a different time when you see weird spellings or phrases and stuff like that. Edda, you want to read the second paragraph?
Okay. It says the name of my aunt Georgiana.
Yep.
Called up not alone her own figure, at once pathetic and grotesque, but opened before my feet a gulf of recollections so wide and deep that as the letter dropped from my hand, I felt suddenly a stranger to all the present conditions of my existence, woefully ill, at ease and out of place amid the surroundings of my study. I became, in short, the gangling farmer boy my aunt had known, Scrooged with chilblains and black bashfulness, my hands cracked and raw from the corn husking. I felt the knuckles of my thumb tentatively as though they were raw again. I sat again before her parlor organ, thumbing the scales with my stiff red hands, while she, beside me, made canvas mittens for the huskers.
All right. I'm just chilblains. That's one on me. Actually, you know what? Right now, let's find out what chilblains means. Oh. Yeah. Painful itching, swelling on the skin, typically on a hand or foot, caused by poor circulation in the skin when exposed to cold. And you do not want to see the pictures. So there you go. You can, we can kind of use context clues for that. Remember, scorched with chilblains and bashfulness, my hands cracked and raw from the corn husking. So she's probably got these, blisters from husking corn is what it's going there. Again, that old school kind of language kind of gets in the way sometimes. But if you take the whole passage, you can kind of see, I felt the knuckles of my thumb tentatively as they were raw again. So you can kind of, if you don't know exactly what chilblains are, you can at least understand that it probably has something to do with like sore, dry, cracking skin. And I'll read the final paragraph then. So the next morning, after preparing my landlady somewhat, I set out for the station. When the train arrived, I had some difficulty in finding my aunt. She was the last of the passengers to alight, and when I got her into the carriage, she looked not unlike one of those charred, smoked bodies that firemen lift from the debris of a burned building. She had come all the way in a day coach. Her linen duster had become black with soot, and her black bonnet gray with dust during the journey. When we arrived at my boarding house, the landlady put her to bed at once, and I did not see her again until the next morning. Christiana, you want to answer our second question here? Read that for us.
The question says the narrator's aunt must go to Boston to visit her nephew, B, settle a relative's estate, C, get away from her husband, D, attend a funeral. Well, I think it's B.
Yeah, B as in boy, right? To settle. Oh, wait a minute. Where'd I go? Oh, yeah. B, settle a relative's estate. All right. Grace, you want to take number 3 then?
Okay. Why does the letter from the narrator's uncle arrive so late? A, the carrier does not deliver the letter promptly. B, the narrator's uncle sent the letter at the last moment. C, the narrator's auntie and uncle had little time to prepare for an unexpected trip. And D, the narrator's uncle had to attend to problems relating to a legacy. I think it's B.
Yeah, there you go. And that goes directly to cause and effect, right? Why did the letter arrive late? The narrator's uncle sent the letter at the last moment. So B as in boy on number 3. 4, Sasha Gay, you want to take 4?
Okay. What does the thought of Aunt Georgiana how does the thought of Aunt Georgiana affect the narrator? A, the narrator fondly remembers his childhood interactions with his aunt. B, the narrator resents his uncle for asking him to help his aunt. C, the narrator recalls the awkwardness and discomfort of his childhood. D, the narrator feels excited to reconnect with his aunt.
A.
C, right? Yeah, C as in cat. The narrator recalls the awkwardness and discomfort. And then 5, the same passage. LaToya, you want to read question 5 for us?
As a result of her journey in a day's coach, Aunt Georgiana A is covered with soot and dust. B arrives in Boston sooner than expected. C is the last passenger to get off the train. Or D hides from her nephew and his landlady. Is it A?
Yeah, A, right? We have her compared to somebody burnt, somebody that gets pulled out of a burning building by a fireman, right? So she's covered in soot and dust. So that's 5 for A. And our final question here, I'll go ahead and read it. What is the most likely reason Aunt Georgiana goes to bed immediately? A, she feels uncomfortable around her nephew. B, she is embarrassed about her appearance. C, she could not sleep on the train. Or D, she is exhausted from her long journey.
D.
D.
D, yeah, D is in dog. She's exhausted from her long journey. And that takes care of the quiz portion. So, guys, missed any real quick while I'm getting the other ones set up here? It's 1 is B as in boy. 2, also B as in boy. 3 as well, B as in boy. 4 was C for cat. 5 is A. 6 is D as in dog. Okay. And we'll shift over to our workbook. Okay. And the same thing, you know, this should be really familiar, right? We're looking for cause and effect here. You know, we can ask ourselves some questions about the effect, and you say, why did this happen? What caused this, right? And that's going to lead you into, you know, defining the two. All right. And so the narrator feels unwell. And this again is from the yellow wallpaper. So John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and seen and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps I would not say it to a living soul, of course, but this is dead paper and a great relief to my mind. Perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I am sick. And what can I do? And what can one do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? My brother is also a physician and also of high standing, and he says the same thing. And pointing out here our underlined spot. So the description of John has a clear cause and effect structure with a cause given first, then a series of effects, right? So John is a physician, but perhaps that is the reason why I don't get well faster. Why am I not getting well faster? Well, maybe it's because John is a physician. And then secondly, the narrator gives one reason for not getting well faster. The word reason signals a cause, right? In this case, the reason, surprisingly, is that her husband is a physician. So another one of those signal words, right? If you're going to see something that's reason, that's a cause. Same, you know, that's a synonym for cause. All right, we'll start up our quiz here, or I'm sorry, our workbook. Okie doke. Okay, and our test taking tip. So when looking for cause and effect relationships, complete this statement. Because of blank, because of, you know, cause blank, blank effect happen. One event leads to the next. Look for connections other than simply time sequences. So that's the thing too, right? We're, you know, our brains think chronologically in order of time. Sometimes you want to step out of that and just think more about, you know, A causes B and the logic behind that. And Etta, you want to take number 1 here?
What causes John to want things to be put down in figures? A, John has no patience with faith. B, John has a horror of superstitions. C, John is practical in the extreme. Or D, John is a physician. A. Well,
C.
He's a physician.
No, it's C because he's practical in the extreme. So let's see here. John is right. It says it right here. John is practical in the extreme. And then he has no patience with faith and intense horror of superstition. Scoffs openly at my talk of things to be felt and seen and put down in figures. So, you know, right here, it says he's practical. He has no patience with faith and intense horror of superstition, right? He's quite a practical man is what it's saying there. So C as in cat for number 1. Christiana, you want to read number 2?
Okay. Why does the narrator feel powerless? A, she knows that nothing is wrong with her. B, her husband and brother do not believe she is sick. C, she has a temporal temporary nervous depression. D, she is not getting well despite her husband's treatment. I think it's C.
It's B, right? Because both of her husband and brothers are physicians, and they're telling her that there's nothing wrong with her, so she feels powerless, right? So the cause there, the effect there is that she feels powerless over her own condition because of her husband and brother's profession. B is in boy for 2. Let me go ahead. I'll read here and then we'll work on the drag and drops together. So the narrator prepares for his journey. I was on my way to Montreal to deliver a lecture. It was midwinter, and I had been warned that the temperature was 10 degrees lower than in New York. Newspapers reported that trains had been stalled in the snow and fishing villages cut off, so that food and medical supplies had to be dropped to them by plane. I prepared for the journey as though it were an expedition to the North Pole. I put on a heavy coat over 2 sweaters and packed warm underwear and a bottle of cognac in case the train should be halted somewhere in the fields. In my breast pocket, I had the manuscript I intended to read, an optimistic report on the future of the Yiddish language. In the beginning, everything went smoothly. As usual, I arrived at the station an hour before train departure and therefore could find no porter. The station teemed with travelers, and I watched them trying to guess who they were, where they were going, and why. None of the men was dressed as heavily as I. Some even wore spring coats. And the idea we want to work on here is drag and drop the most likely cause or effect into the correct location. So we have a little table here divided into cause on the left and our effects on the right. So the narrator is concerned about weather conditions, right? That's the effect. What caused the narrator to be concerned about weather conditions?
Trains have been stalled in the snow.
Yeah. So first one there, because trains have been stalled in the snow, the narrator is concerned about weather conditions. And there are other 2 are going to be effects. So what is the effect when the narrator arrives at a station an hour early?
The narrator finds no porter to help with luggage.
Yep, there's no porter. You know, porter being like a baggage handler. You know, like the guys bellhop. They'll take luggage to your room. So you can't find a, that's the effect there. And then finally, the narrator is a very cautious person. That is the cause. What is the effect of him being a very cautious person?
People
The
observe.
narrator, okay. Not that.
Extreme conditions, right? So he wants to be prepared, right? We get that from the way he dressed, the fact that he brought some cognac with him in case he gets stranded on the tracks and he has something to drink, he has something to read. So he's very cautious and prepared. All right, so there we go. First one, trains have been stalled in the snow. Narrator finds no porter to help with luggage. And then finally, the narrator prepares for extreme conditions. All right, we'll split it up here. I'll start and then I'll pass it off to somebody. So the guest wants information. Sylvie, Sylvie, called the busy old grandmother again and again, but nobody answered, and the small husk bed was empty, and Sylvia had disappeared. Grace, you want to read the second paragraph?
Oh, okay. The second, the guest waked from a dream, and remembering his day's pleasure, hurried to dress himself that it might sooner begin. He was sure from the way the shy little girl looked once or twice yesterday that she had at least seen the white heron, and now she must really be made to tell. Here she comes now, paler than ever, and her one old frock is torn and tattered. and smeared with pine pitch. The grandmother and the sportsman stand in the door together and question her. And the splendid moment has come to speak of the dead hemlock tree by the green marsh. Shall I continue? Okay.
Y'all going, Sasha Gay, could you take third paragraph?
But Sylvia did not speak after all. So the old grandmother fretfully rebukes her, and the young man's kind, appealing eyes are looking straight in her own. He can make them rich with money. He has promised it, and they are poor now. He's so well worth making happy. And he waits to hear the story she can tell.
Okay. And I'll finish off the last one. So no, she must keep silence. What is it that suddenly forbids her and makes her dumb? Has she been 9 years growing, and now, when the great world for the first time puts out a hand to her, must she thrust it aside for a bird's sake? Sylvia cannot speak. She cannot tell the heron's secret and give its life away. The murmur of the pine's green branches in her ears. She remembers how the white heron came flying through the golden air and how they watched the sea and the morning together. And Sylvia cannot speak. She cannot tell the heron's secret and give its life away. From A White Heron by Sarah Orne Jewett in 1886. Latoya, what takes number 4?
Because Sylvia does not tell her grandmother and the guests what they want to know. Because Sylvia does not tell her grandmother and the guests what they want to know.
Yeah, so like that's the introductory side of it. That's a little awkward. We haven't really dealt with that too much,
Yeah,
but
it is.
yeah, that's your cause statement, and now you're looking for the effect statement.
Okay. A, the guest pays the grandmother for the lodge and the lake. No. Is it C?
Yep, C is in cat, right? Sylvia's grandmother scolds her for not sharing the location of the heron. All right. And same thing here. So Etta, want to read question 5 for us?
What leads the guest to think Sylvia has seen the white heron? A, Sylvia's inability to speak. B, Sylvia's torn dress. C, the grandmother's confession. Or D, the way Sylvia looks. D.
Yeah, D is in dog, right? The way she looks.
Yeah.
All right. And so see, Christiana, you want to read number 6? Oh, yeah, 6.
Okay. Why does the grandmother want Sylvia to tell the guests about the white heron? Sylvia likes to entertain guests with stories. B, the guest has offered them money. C, the grandmother wants to find out about the white heron. D, Sylvia knows a great deal about local birds. Read the D.
It's B, right? Yeah, because the guest offer her money. B as in boy. Okay. Grace, you want to take number 7?
Okay. Number 7, why does Sylvia keep silent? A, she is unsure of the heron's location. B, she has trouble speaking to strangers. C, she wants her grandmother to ask for more money. And D, she fears the guests will harm the heron. D.
Yeah, she's afraid that they'll harm the heron. D is in dog. On we go. Number 8. Let's see, Sasha Gay, you want to take number 8?
What most likely happens because Sylvia keeps her secret? A. Sylvia's grandmother becomes rich. B. The guest finds the white heron. C. The white heron escapes capture. D. Sylvia's grandmother praises her. Is it D?
C here, right? The heron escapes capture. Right, number 8, C. All right, C. All right, 9. I'll go ahead and read here. So, a flight from Miami. A woman who had traveled a great deal in planes and had never trusted them because she understood nothing about them, sat in the double front seat behind the magazine rack. This was the best seat, as she knew, because there was enough room to stretch your legs. Also, you could see well from here if you wanted to see. Now, for a moment, she looked out the window and saw that the few palm trees at the far edge of the field were blowing out heavy plumes against the sky. There was something so wrong about Miami that even a beautiful night, sharp with stars, only seemed a real estate advertisement. The woman pulled off her earrings and put them carelessly in her coat pocket. She ran her hands through her very short, dark, up-curling hair, deliberately making herself untidy for the night ahead. She hunched her shoulders to ease the tired stiffness in her neck and slouched down in the chair. She had just leaned her head against the chair back and was thinking of nothing when the man's voice said, "Is this place taken?" "No," she said, without looking at him. She moved nearer to the window. Anyhow, she said to herself, only 8 or 10 hours or whatever it is to New York. Even if he snores, he can't snore all the time. So From Miami to New York by Martha Gellhorn, 1948. And so because the woman is an experienced traveler, she knows A, to arrive at the airport on time, B, which seat is most comfortable, C, not to be bothered by delays, D, how long the trip will take.
D.
B as in boy, which seat is most comfortable, right? Right off the top, she knows being in front of the plane, she knows that it's gonna, near the magazine rack, she's gonna have that extra leg room. Latoya, you wanna take number 10?
It said, why does the narrator describe Miami as so wrong? She mentioned something about the advertisements in the city.
There you go. Yeah, you go right to it. So D, right? Miami looks more like a real estate advertisement than a city. So there you go, like a picture in a magazine or something. So D as in dog for 10. Yeah, just a handful left here. 11. Etta, you want to take 11?
The woman speaks to the man and then moves nearer the window. The most likely reason for her change of position is to A, hear the man's conversation, B, be rude to the man, C, make room for the man, or D, see better from the window. D or C.
Yeah, C, right? C is in cat, just to make room for the man. 11 is C. And let's see, Christiana, you want to take 12 for us?
Okay. Number 12.
Yep.
The question says, later in the story, the man tries to talk. The man tries to talk to the woman after the plane left off. on the basis of the woman's behavior. On the basis of the sorry, on the basis of the woman's behavior in this passage, what is the most likely effect the man's attempt at conversation? What is the most likely effect the man's attempt at conversation will have on the woman? Well, A, she will try to ignore the man. B, she will have a long conversation with him. C, she will begin to snore. D, she immediately will ask to change her seat. I think it's A.
Yeah, she's going to ignore him, right? That's an inference there, right? Because we can kind of see her attitude, the way she sort of, looks or interacts with the man. So A, she's going to try to ignore him. And then our last one here, I'll go ahead and read it. Travelers might behave as the woman in the story does because they A, want to meet other travelers, B, want to be left alone, C, enjoy looking at scenery, D, do not enjoy traveling.
B.
B, want to be left alone, right? When we're on an airplane, we don't want some stranger talking to us. So B is in boy for 13, our last one there. So did everybody get all of the answers?